Today's teaching topic is why mastering energy is crucial to mastering 5D leadership. And I'm just going to take you through my thinking here because I have done a lot of studying on this subject. In fact, I think I've read more than 200 books on quantum physics and related subjects. And in some cases, some books I've gone back and studied and restudied several times. And so I've read books by quantum physicists, which is not easy to do, actually. You really got to labor your way through their language. And I've read books by non-quantum physicists who are trying to make sense of what quantum physics really is, because it's not an easy thing to do. One quantum physicist actually said, if you believe you have a full understanding of quantum physics, then you're wrong. And so I think we're looking for a fairly basic understanding of quantum physics to help us understand its role in leadership and in life. And in fact, I'll reverse that, its role in life, which is everything, and its role in leadership as well, because that is a very important part of life, individually and collectively. Okay, let's talk about the journey we're going on today. The nature of energy. What is energy? Let's talk about it. The states of energetic vibration. I really want to show you a different perspective on that, which is very, very interesting, illuminating in many respects. You know, I've got one slide that I could run this whole presentation on for about an hour, and we'll have a look at that. The role of energy in leadership, of course, is why we're here today, because we are the Quantum Conscious Leadership Institute. Quantum conscious leadership. And so the role of energy in leadership. And I'm going to share with you 8 of my favorite hacks to get yourself into higher vibration and stay there. And these should move from hacks to habits. So you really want to adopt these as habits in your everyday life, so that you're never subject to this variation, what they call the roller coaster ride, in energetic vibration. So you get some news and that's not good news, so your energy goes down. You get some good news and you're happy about that, so your energy goes up. That's the roller coaster ride. And, quantum conscious leaders shouldn't be subject to that, because that's external events and circumstances which are controlling your energy, which means you're not controlling it. And of course, great leaders. The new breed of 5D leader, the quantum conscious leader, is absolutely in control of their energy. In fact, it's energetic mastery. And that's the game we really want to play. Because, and I'll say this once and I'll say it many times through the presentation, in the hope that you understand what we're getting at here. When you master energy, you master everything. And that will become, patently evident as we go through this presentation. And so let's begin with the nature of energy. Well, quantum physics is a pretty recent discovery, actually. Around 1900, there was a couple of guys who pretty much at the same time revealed this new genre of physics, because we had, Newtonian physics had dictated our lives. What Isaac Newton said, pretty much was adopted as what is real and true. And we're going to find out that the theory of quantum physics has in many respects negated much of what he said, not all of it, but much of it. Quantum physics explains how everything works, how matter works, energy, biology, astronomy, every consciousness, as well, how everything works. So energy, everything is energy. All energy is connected everywhere. They call it entanglement, quantum entanglement, which means that everything is connected everywhere at the same time. And the time that we have is only now. And so quantum physics doesn't recognize the past or the future. It basically says time is now. There is only now. And so, while we're all individuals that have our own energetic signature, um, we are also a part of a greater energetic connection. And you can call that the universe, the cosmos, or everything. Um, it is just everything. And the universe is an omnipresent, intelligent, and interconnected field of electromagnetic energy. Electromagnetic energy. I'm going to explain to you in a minute what that actually means. And that represents unlimited potential because it has no definitive or definite form yet. Now, let me say that again. The universe has represents unlimited potential because it has no definite form yet. And I'm going to talk to you more about what that means in a moment. And so, how do we go about turning that unlimited potential into experience and matter? Because that's what we're capable of doing. Let me explain what electromagnetic means. Electro revolves around our intention, our intention. What is our desire, our dream, our goals? What are the things, what are we actually passionate about doing? Now, I've used the word, a lot of people use the word desires, a lot of people use the word dreams. Um, I prefer the word intention. This is what I am intending to do. It's a decision, it's a decree in many respects. And that is expressed by your imagination. And as we go through this, you'll begin to understand that my view of imagination is that it is the playground of creation. Your imagination is the playground of creation. And how do you express that imagination? Through your thoughts, your words, your internal narrative, your beliefs, and your actions in your consciousness, in your state of being. And we'll talk again about the relationship of between your consciousness and your imagination and what you're intending, as well as we go through this. And now you're starting to understand that I'm alluding to manifestation and magnetic. So electro is intention, magnetic is attention. And what is that? That's expressed by your feelings and emotions. And by the way, I want you to do some research. Feelings and emotions are quite different. Emotions comes first, and then it's our brain interpreting what that emotional response was into what a feeling is. And now it's also revolves around the vibration of your intention realized. Think about those words for a moment. The vibration of your intention realized. That's the magnetic force. That's what draws to you from the universe of all potentiality, your creation, your intention. And so they both have a role. That's why they call it electromagnetic. Is the intention is expressed by your imagination, the clarity of what you want to achieve versus your attention, the feelings, which is drawing that clarity of, what you're intending, what you're imagining to you. And so that becomes the electromagnetic broadcast out to the universe. And the universe dutifully responds to your beingness, which means you being in a state of being of your intention already realized. Now, if you're hoping, if you're praying, that it'll come to you, if you're desperate, that'll come to you. These things do not work because you're in a state of not having. And when you're in a state of not having, that's literally broadcasting out to the universe that you don't have it. And the universe will respond in ensuring you don't have it. So it'll never deliver. But when you're in a vibration, a state of being of your intention realized, which means you're being it, the universe dutifully responds. And the difficulty here is, and we'll keep talking about this as we go through in terms of manifestation, because manifestation is a very important skill for leadership. Very important skill. Most leaders in the 3D world, because they can't control their energy, because they can't control their internal narrative, are in fact self sabotaging, which means their intention is negative. Their attention is low vibrational. And so what they're doing is they're manifesting everything that they actually don't want, that they fear, or that they're desperate for. And so we need to flip that on its head, don't we, in the 5D world? We move out of that, old world programming and move into the programming of being able to have the discipline, because it requires significant discipline to be able to be in consistently in the state of being of the intention realized or the wish fulfilled. They're the words that Neville Goddard uses, being in the state of the wish fulfilled. He means the same as what I'm saying here, being in the vibration of the intention realized. I'm saying exactly the same thing as Neville Goddard in my own language. And by the way, Neville Goddard, if you're interested, get into his books because he's got a lot of lectures where he talks about this extensively, and it's very powerful stuff. And so the universe dutifully responds to your beingness of consistent, passionately held intentions. I'm already, and that what that means is, in simple language, is what I'm intending is already done. I feel it, I know it. It's a state of knowingness, a state of it's done, it's doneness. And this is a universal law. And so, and the reason I've got 72 hours there is because it literally takes 3 days. And again, these are the teachings of Neville Goddard, which really resonate with me. That's why I'm sharing them with you. Is Neville really talks about, developing your intention. And once you develop your intention and you have clarity around the intention, and then you decide by decree that you're in that state of being of that intention already realized. And now it may not be evident in your physical reality because your physical reality is really a reflection of old intentions. And so if the intention is not realized yet, then having the discipline to be able to stay in that state of beingness, that state of consciousness, that state of imagination of the intention realized is a very difficult thing to do. But what Neville Goddard talks about is if you can do that for 3 days without going into doubt, and doubt will raise its head. If you go into doubt, then simply sweep it aside and say, no, that's not me anymore. The way I am living now is this way because I already have what I have intended. It's already mine. It belongs to me. It's my state of being. It's my way of life. I have accepted it as, and acceptance is a big part of this. I have accepted it as being my reality, even though you don't see physical or material evidence of it. Staying in that state for 3 days. Neville talks about day three, where things start to reveal themselves. It's like planting a seed in the ground. You plant the seed in the ground with the knowingness that it will germinate, that it will sprout, and that it will grow into a beautiful plant or a beautiful tree. You don't keep digging up the seed when it hasn't broken through the earth to see if the seed is germinating. You don't do that. But why would you do that? Because you know the seed is germinating. And so you have trust, you have acceptance, and you have knowingness. You're in a state of knowingness. And so you just be patient and you just wait. And then what happens is day three, that seed starts to sprout. And what I'm talking about there is in that metaphor is that you will start to notice on day three that things change, not only internally, because you are now in a different state of being. You're not the same person because you're in a state of being of, knowing that what you passionately intend is inevitable. And so on day three, you might see little signs, and you've got to keep your eyes open on day three for the little signs. Or you may experience something in a significant and quite dramatic event. It could be one or the other. And so this is what I'm talking about in terms of the nature of energy. Energy has a very powerful role in this. You know, the clarity of intention, of course, is very important. I talk about that a lot, don't I? Clarity of your vision, clarity of your purpose, clarity of who you are and why you're here. And that goes for your intentions as well. You must have clarity and consistency around that intention until it's fully realized. And then, of course, you may have several intentions, doesn't matter. I don't think the non-conscious mind um, has any problem with dealing with several intentions at one time. Um, and then, of course, the attention is the feeling, which is the energy, the vibrational energy, the state of being around that. And that is impacted by your words, your internal narrative. So your thoughts are energy. So if you immediately go into doubt, if you go into, I'm not good enough, why hasn't it happened to me? Then it won't happen. You literally need, as those things raise their head, you need to sweep them aside. This is the discipline of a quantum conscious leader. You need to sweep it aside and say, no, no, that's not who I am anymore. I am this. And you go back into that state of being of the intention realized. Now, much of what quantum physics has stated to us as real and true disproves much of Newtonian physics. One of the fundamental principles, there's many, of course, and many have not been disproven. One of the fundamental principles of Newtonian physics was that life is logical, life is predictable, life is predetermined. And so your destiny is already stated. You hear a lot of people talk about this. It's my destiny. No, it's not. Your destiny is entirely within your hands. And Newton said that we're all cogs in a big machine. And it doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter what dreams we have or what we try and manifest or, what actions we take. We can never actually move away from our predetermined destiny. Well, Newton was wrong. And quantum physics has proven this because this is what the universe of potentiality is all about. And this is what our role is. Our role is to determine what our future is simply through the decisions we make, the intentions we have, and the state of energy, the state of beingness, the state of consciousness around those decisions and our ability to commit to that. And so quantum physics has now proven much of what spiritual leaders and philosophers have been talking about for eons. And so, when you just see this, it's like I've heard spiritual leaders say this. I've been talking about this for 25 years, and now, quantum physics has proven it. Or you might have the teachings of, spiritual leaders from just 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, and you'll find that the quantum physics, which was discovered, only 100 years ago, is proving everything that they've been talking about. So quantum physics and spirituality are, very much connected, aren't they? And a lot of people haven't drawn the connection between the two, but I certainly have. I'm seeing it all the time. Now, states of energetic vibration, let's talk about that. The core drivers here at the Institute, the Quantum Conscious Leadership Institute, are two things. I am consciousness and what's involved in that. It's knowing who you really are and why you're here as your true higher self, your source self, your I am consciousness self. That's clarity of who you really are. That's very important. And of course, then there's the quantum, which is all about energy. Your energetic state, your consciousness is powered by your thoughts, words, emotions, and resulting feelings and actions. These mostly stem from your beliefs, your truths held in your non-conscious mind. And so, what are those beliefs? Well, that's in many respects for many of us, unless we've overcome it or reprogrammed ourselves. It's the old programming, isn't it? It's the programming that was designed not to serve us. And we have been programmed from the very first moment we took our first breath. The world that we've been exposed to, the low level world, which has not been designed by us, by people who are sovereign, by people who are free, by people who are in a higher state of consciousness. It's been designed by other low level, low energetic forces that, of course, have their own agenda, and that is that they own everything, and that we are effectively their chattel, to be used, to be abused, to be drawn from. And so that we know that that's not the case anymore, isn't it? We know that the power resides in us, and the power resides in our ability to understand and identify beliefs that no longer serve us. They're called limiting beliefs. And to be able to then reprogram our conscious and non-conscious minds, which need to be in harmony around the programming, and the programming should come from us, from our awareness and our ability to understand our unlimited power as creators and to determine our own destiny. And so we develop our own truths, don't we? And those become a part of the non-conscious mind, the reprogrammed non-conscious mind. And at the same time, we're developing new neural pathways in our brain, aren't we? And so the beliefs that we develop in our non-conscious mind and the neural pathways are happening at the same time, um, in alignment with what we consciously intend and unwaveringly commit to. Now, energy can be measured in cycles per second. It's called hertz, or the version of that you'll see is just a capital H and a small Z or Z. And this is your vibration, and everybody has their own energetic vibrational signature. And so you would have seen this chart before in our teachings, but it's worth revisiting and reminding yourself of the scale of energetic vibrations. So down at 20 is shame, 30, feeling guilty, 50, apathy, grief, fear, desire. These are all very low level vibrations, aren't they? And if you'll see what I put down the bottom there, devastation, when you're feeling shame and guilty and apathy, these low level, even anger, these low level vibrations, you're in a state of desperation, which is absolutely not where you want to be. If you understand this stuff and allow yourself to go into those low level vibrations, regardless of the circumstance, it doesn't really matter. Because certain circumstances have a tendency to trigger these feelings in us, don't they? And when we consciously go into these feelings and entertain them and fuel them, then we are in a state of self sabotage. We are creating our own devastation. We're the creators, remember. And so, up around fear, desire, anger, you're in a state of suffering. When you go into boldness or this kind of around 200 to 250, you're in a state of coping. You're not thriving. In many respects, you're surviving. When you move up the scale and you're into around 400, where your mind has consciousness, when you're in a state of love, which is actually 528 hertz, when you're in a state of love, you're actually in a state of flow. And when you move up the scale of energetic vibration around harmony and enlightenment, 600 to 700, you're in a state of I am consciousness. Now, that's the state of being that we want quantum conscious leaders, the new breed of 5D leader, to be in that state consistently, 24/7. That is your home. That is your true self. That is who you were actually born to be. Before the programming, before you came into this world, you were I am consciousness. And of course, we came into this world and very quickly forgot all that. And then the programming took over our conscious and non conscious minds and turned us into an unnatural state of being, because I am consciousness is your natural state of being. That's what we all should be striving to do, is to elevate our energy up to joy, love, joy, harmony, enlightenment. And I'm going to talk about just how powerful that is in a moment. And so I am consciousness is your really your true higher self, your source self, your divine spark self. And so anything up from 250 from neutrality up is an expanded, multiplied multiplying state of being. They're vibrations that multiply and expand. And that's why it's so important to master your own vibrational energy and keep it high, whereas down below neutrality is a contracted, diminishing state of being. These are diminishing vibrations, and in many respects, when you're aware of this, it's a state of self-sabotage, and it's a state we just simply must not allow ourselves to be in. And you must also remember that like energy attracts like energy. So if you're in a state of anger, you attract anger. If you're in a state of vanity, you attract vanity. If you're in a state of fear, you attract fear, more things to be fearful of. All of a sudden, your world is full of fear. Everywhere you look, there's something to fear. And so, of course, that is a state of being that is not helping us to go on the journey of our true higher self, our source self. In fact, we're not in that state of all at all. And here's some very big statements that I want you to think about. When you're vibrating at 528, which is love and above, you can influence 750,000 people. Now, we're not talking about the old 3D version of love or definition of love. We're talking about the 5D version of unconditional love. Unconditional love. And that begins with unconditional love of self first, and then, of course, of all others. You can influence 750,000 people. When you're vibrating at 600 hertz, which is harmony, you're in a state of I am consciousness, you can influence 10 million people. When you're vibrating at a state of 700 hertz, enlightenment, you can influence 70 million people. Now, before there was the internet, before there was iPhones and computers, before we had any form of electronic communication whatsoever, how do you think people like Buddha or Jesus Christ, Yeshua, or any of these people of massive influence around the world got their message out? Well, it was because they were vibrating at this level of energy. 528, 750, 600 hertz, 10 million, 700 hertz, 70 million. And now think about this in terms of manifestation, because a lot of people believe that they've got to work hard, they've got to put in more effort, they've got to push and shove and use force of will. That's not the case at all. In fact, that is the antithesis of how quantum energy, quantum physics actually works, because it's the energy that does the attraction. It's the energy that actually does the work of manifesting for you. And so when somebody is vibrating at 700 hertz, like Gandhi, for example, 700 hertz, how did he have such incredible influence on a nation, on the world, when, he literally he wasn't posting on Telegram every day, or he didn't have a YouTube, channel where he was posting his videos every day. He just didn't do it, did he? But it was his vibrational energy that people were attracted to. Very, very important. So that I know there's a lot in that chart, but it is a very important chart to know and understand around the nature of energy and the the states of energetic vibration and the role they have to play in life and in leadership. Of course, you can see the connection very, very clearly. So let's move into the role of energy and leadership. And now I'm going to draw on the studies of Dr. Daniel Goleman, who has written several books. And one of the most famous books that he's written is called Emotional Intelligence. Now, you all know me very well that I've relabeled emotional intelligence, EQ, as energetic intelligence because emotions are energy. And so while he's talking about emotions, I'm talking about energy. And what he found in his very extensive research, and this is a psychologist, an eminent psychologist who's been researching literally the role of emotions in leadership for 35 years. And I just want to share with you a few of the findings that came out of his, enormous body of work. EQ, emotional intelligence, energy intelligence, is the main factor separating average from great leaders. Now, think about that for a minute. He found that 85% of leadership competency stems from EQ, emotional intelligence, while only 15 from IQ. And so we were led to believe, weren't we, that the leader had to be the absolute smartest person in the room. Well, what he's saying and what resonates with me and what I believe to be true is that it's the emotionally intelligent leader, the energetically intelligent leader, the conscious leader that is the leader that is really the great leader that has the competency to lead. And so again, there's this other old world, dogma that we're led to believe. To be a leader of any kind of company, you've got to be an expert in what that company does. Well, I've been challenging that for decades. I've basically said, if you are a heart-led leader, if you are an emotionally intelligent leader, you can lead any company with any products or services. You don't need to be an expert in that company because, number one, you can surround yourself with experts who you trust. And that's part of the selection process of making sure you have experts you can trust. But the real game you're playing is an energetic game, isn't it? And so leaders' energy spreads rapidly. This is what he found. Now, of course, we know this from quantum physics, don't we? I mean, there's no time and space for energy. It can be here and it can be on the other side of the universe. You can't even measure the time, it's instantaneous. And so, what he's talking about is the mood or the vibration of the leader creates either harmony or disharmony. And so, if the leader's in a bad mood, if the leader is which unfortunately most 3D leaders were, is sociopathic, which means they didn't really care about anything but profit. They didn't care about their people. Their people were just there to be used. If that's the mood of the leader, then that's going to create disharmony in the organization, which of course has a massive effect on culture. Now, I've been saying this for decades. Culture, the key determinant of culture is not values alignment, it's energy alignment, energy coherence. And this proves it from the study of Daniel Goleman. The vibration of the leader can create either harmony or disharmony. If you're in a state of harmony, then you have a very coherent culture and a highly productive culture. Of course, you've got to have the right people in the right roles, all integrating together, and all understanding what the objectives are, and most importantly, what the vision and purpose of the organization is as a whole, holistically. But you also got to understand what your role is and how you work with other people inside that. But if you're in a state of harmony, that massively multiplies your ability to do what you need to do inside a very high energy, coherent culture. And you see now, and when it's in disharmony, well, the opposite is going to happen, isn't it? It's going to be, instead of multiplying, it's diminishing. And so people will be in a state of conflict. People will be in a state of, you know, um, uncertainty, insecurity, and fear, and they simply cannot do their best work. And so this is one of the quotes I pulled from the book on emotional intelligence. If you are tuned out of your emotions, your ability to lead will be greatly compromised. Now, in the old 3D world, I can tell you that the vast majority of leaders that I came across were well and truly tuned out of their emotions. They were like Spock, from Star Trek. They literally did not want to acknowledge or express their emotional energy. And in many respects, their emotional energy was so low, and they were so detached from their emotions that you could call them sociopaths. In fact, I had a very leading psychologist here in Sydney who wrote a book, and the title of the book was All Leaders Are Sociopaths. And he did extensive research to prove it. And so, this is the old world that we're moving out of, isn't it? The old leadership, the old dense, low level command and control leadership style that we're moving out of. And so we want leaders who are in tune with their emotional energy, who do understand the role of energy in their lives and understand what that they are doing that actually controls that energy or masters that energy. So think about that quote for a moment. If you are tuned out of your own emotions, your ability to lead will be greatly compromised. And we see that a lot around the world. It's still very evident. And so, what's the role of energy in leadership? When you master energy, you master everything. I'm back to that particularly important insight. When you master energy, you master everything. Because what I've proven to you so far is that everything is energy, your energy, and everything around you is energy, and you are connected and tangled with everything. And so, when you control your own energy in a very high vibrational state, you're controlling the experience, your reality, the reality you're having. And that is what quantum conscious leaders are all about. Quantum conscious leaders are alchemists. What is an alchemist? An alchemist is somebody who can control energy. Now, I'm not talking about turning stone into gold here. I'm talking about being able to manifest into reality, into experiences your passionately held intentions by being in the state of consciousness of that intention already fulfilled when it is not evident as material reality as yet. This is the power of creation, the power of the quantum conscious leader. And it's not about manipulation. It's not about saying, I'm controlling all these people. No, no. You want to be able to ensure that every member of your team has this ability as well, which means they're manifesting. They're using their EQ, emotional intelligence, their energetic intelligence, to manifest what they're consciously intending in their role and as a collective, so that you get vastly better outcomes. You get extraordinary outcomes. And that's what leadership alchemy is all about. That's what being a quantum conscious leader in its purest form is all about. And so let's now get into some of these energy hacks, and you will be aware of these. But the big question is, are you doing them consistently? And so, first, of course, most obvious in the Institute is being your true higher self. And that means, firstly, letting go of the old and destructive programming and identities, which are not really you, in getting clarity of your unique and divine vision and purpose, your I am consciousness. Remember that high vibrational energy of knowingness, knowing who you are and why you're really here, having clarity around that and being committed to it, unwaveringly committed to it. And then, of course, your intention realized through consciously being. Being able to master your ability as your true higher self in that high vibrational state of I am consciousness, of of harmony around that, of enlightenment around that. Fear cannot live in this place. Low levels of energy cannot live in this place. They simply do not belong because they're gone. And that's when you become the creator who knows and understands how to manifest your intentions by being consciously in that state of receivership. Now, the second hack is stillness. Some people call this meditation. I prefer to use the word stillness. This is your ability to move out of the crazy monkey mind, the beta state of mind, which, if you go back to your workbooks, you'll see what that means. It's a very unproductive state of mind, and into alpha or theta. Now, when you have the ability to be in the alpha state of mind, it's a very calm and resourceful state of mind. And how is it resourceful? You have the ability to create. And that means that your conscious and non-conscious minds are more in harmony. They're more in harmony. So you have a closer relationship. The door between the conscious and the non-conscious mind is open, and so that increases your ability to send out your electromagnetic broadcasts to the universe and be committed to them, and thereby be in the process of manifesting every day of your life. And that requires going within, opening the gateway, as I've talked about, between the non-conscious and the conscious, the quantum and the akashic, the unlimited potential that is simply waiting there for you to express what your intentions are in a committed way, and then it will dutifully deliver. So it's your developed, and this is where your intuitive powers come from as well, your ability to be still and to listen to the answers, to solve problems, to get insights and wisdom, to get guidance. And a lot of people we know are looking for that externally. But the reality is that all those answers actually come from within, but you've got to be still in a different brainwave state of mind, a different level of consciousness to be able to access them. And that's your incredible intuitive powers. Now, the third hack is nutrition. A lot of people, we've been programmed to do this very badly, haven't we? I mean, just walk into a supermarket and just have a look at how much of the supermarket is processed food in boxes and read the nutritional information. You'll find that the vast majority of it is not live food. It's not organic. It's full of sugar and salt. So it really is not something you should be consuming to create life in your body. So my first suggestion is real, live, organic food, food that comes from the earth, and can just consume less. I mean, we've been taught to eat more, consume more, eat 3 meals a day. I mean, whose idea was that? You've got to have breakfast, you've got to have lunch, you've got to have dinner. And I've read many when I was going through my bodybuilding phase. I've read many books where they said you should be eating every 2 hours. I mean, you're literally consuming a meal every 2 hours because you're trying to feed your body and grow your muscles. It's just not true. And the other thing is processed sugar, not natural sugar in many respects. Processed sugar is the enemy because we know that the parasites that create most of the disease states in our body, including cancer, feed on sugar. If you deprive them of sugar, they can't live in your body. And so, and also alcohol. My only alternative word for alcohol is poison. It's poison. And so when you're drinking alcohol, number one, I haven't come across one alcoholic beverage that tastes any good. They're terrible unless they're full of sugar. And number two, they're poison. They actually have no role in the evolved health and well-being of your body. You need to drink live water. A lot of people talk about our body being water. Well, it's not actually real water in the state that we know it's plasma. And so we want to feed our body with live water. And it's worth having a look at the studies of Dr. Masuru Emoto, where he really spent his life saying that water is just energy like everything else, and it responds to the vibrational energy around it. So, if you have a bottle of water and you put the words, and this was the simplest experiment he did, if you put the words hate, anger, fear on that bottle of water, it has a massive role in changing the structure of the water and turning the water from live water to dead water. And dead water is not something you should be drinking. You should be drinking live water. And so, what does live water actually look like? It has a very different structure. And so, if you put the words love, joy, peace, and harmony, those high vibrational words, on your water bottle, the structure of the water actually changes. And he's done studies to show that. And so it's very important. You want to be able to drink live water. And in many respects, if you can't get access to that water, which I do, there's a company in Sydney called Awake Water, and they call it spiritual water. They've already done all of the work. It comes from a natural source in the ground, number one. It's not put through any pipes or anything like that, old, rusty pipes that reduce the energy, change the structure of the water. And they actually do in the facility where they house the water, they do meditations, they do drumming, they do dancing, they do all those kinds of things that changes the structure of the water and makes the water vastly more live, of course, than spiritual water. So water is very important. The state of the water that you drink is very important, and most of us don't drink very much water. And so it'd be worth doing some of your own research there to understand just how much water your body needs. At least 2 to 3 liters a day is a basic rule. And you should drink at least 500 ml of water first thing in the morning to energize your body and to hydrate your brain. Fasting, I find, is a very important field of study as well. Every single day, I do intermittent fasting. What's that? That is basically 16/8, which means that I'll go 16 hours without eating. And I do that for a reason, which I'll explain in a moment. And 8 hours with eating, and there's only two meals in those 8 hours. And it's around this idea of, live organic food and live water and smaller meals because our body just doesn't need to be overtaxed. Then there's extended fasting as well, where you could go for a day, 2 days, 3 days, even longer. Um, and the metabolic change that your body goes through in extended fasting is absolutely unbelievable. It is significant. And what I'm talking about here is the ability for the body to heal. The body is detoxing, you're depriving the body of sugar and all these other poisons, which means your body has a chance to actually go through a detoxing process, which your liver and kidneys are designed to do, especially your liver. And it gives the body the opportunity to heal. So, my simple energetic hack for nutrition is fasting is healing. I say that to my wife the other day. She was feeling like something was coming on, and I said, "Well, just don't eat anything fast. Drink a lot of water, drink some herbal teas, and rest." And think positive thoughts, and of course, what am I talking about? Positive thoughts. Don't use the word sickness. I'm getting sick. Actually, switch it into I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling really healthy. I'm feeling fantastic. Every cell in my body is humming in harmony of, elevated health and well-being. And what am I doing there? I'm using my mind through the process that Dr. Bruce Lipton calls epigenetics to heal my body, to heal my own cells. And that accelerates the healing process along with other things like live water and fasting. And I'd suggest extended fasting to do that a day, 2 days, 36 hours. It's not an easy thing to do. It requires discipline because we've been programmed to continue to eat. And so the process of having that discipline to not eat is a process of detoxing and healing. And also, there's this other thing where we need to eliminate much of the chemicals that are in our life. Pretty much everything is poisonous, from the chemicals we use to clean our house to the chemicals we use to put on our body. And we know that most of these lotions and potions and pills that we take are toxic in nature. And so it's a matter of being able to say, no, I'm going to find alternatives to this. One of the great alternatives to a lotion and potion is coconut oil. A lot of people, for example, I put coconut oil on my skin or castor oil. I challenge you to do a bit of research into the significant healing powers of castor oil. Unbelievable. I mean, again, this is one of those natural healing agents that has been taken out of our life. I remember in my youth, my mother used castor oil for everything. We didn't like it, but she used it to detox us. She used it for our skin. And in many respects, it was just incredible. And then all of a sudden it disappeared. And it's because, the old world of programming wanted to take away those things from us so that we didn't use them to our own benefit. So eliminate chemicals out of your life. It's a part of nutrition because what you put on your skin goes into your body. And I call that nutrition as well. Now, energy hack number 4 is movement. I don't say exercise here. I'm talking about movement, getting that body moving. And it's very important to do what you love. It could be walking, it could be running, it could be some form of aerobic exercise, which is all about getting your heart moving. And anaerobic exercise, of course, is all about resistance. Resistance training, building your muscles. Creating density in your muscles, which creates density in your bones, and that is one of the most powerful. Movement is one of the most powerful antidotes to aging. In many respects, when it's done well, and you can make sure you don't go into a states of injury, you're overdoing it, it reduces and turns back the biomarkers of aging. Um, it also releases neurotransmitters like endorphin, serotonin, and dopamine, which naturally make you feel fantastic. An energy, an exercise, a movement. It is a movement that I would recommend is Qigong. You've heard me talking about this before. The translation of Qigong basically means energy mastery. So we're talking about energy. It massively enhances breathing, balance, flexibility, every state that you can think of in terms of well-being. Now, I've studied Tai Chi and Qigong for many years, and I have been pretty much do, um, my 36 Sabashi exercises in Qigong 3 or 4 times a week, and it just makes you feel unbelievable. The thing that I like most about Qigong is the ability to be in a state of harmony, and it's high vibrational harmony. Energy hack number 5 is nature. Immerse yourself in nature, physically connect with the earth, the ocean. Be out in the sunshine. The sunshine is not your enemy, it's a healing agent. Be in nature, commune with plants, with animals. Very powerful in terms of their healing properties, in terms of their properties around enhancing your energetic state. They promote harmony, relaxation, calmness, healing, sleep rhythms, and your immunity system. They reduce disease states, inflammation, stress, and pain, and so on. So your connection with nature is very important. Take the shoes off. We've been all taught to wear shoes with rubber soles, which actually disconnect us from nature. Well, it's time to get back to nature and walk the earth barefooted. Go into the ocean. The healing properties of the ocean are extraordinary. Do a bit of research for yourself, and you'll find out why. The next energy hack is breathing, of course. Haven't we been taught to be, a planet of shallow breathers? In many respects, when we're in fear states, we stop breathing altogether. Um, so, we need to go back to understanding that breath, in many respects, is life. And when you're breathing deeply and consistently, it triggers the parasympathetic nervous system. It creates greater clarity and focus, calmness, resourcefulness, and overall well-being. A normal technique of breathing that I would suggest to you is 4 in, hold for 4, out for 9. That's what really triggers the parasympathetic nervous system, and then hold for 4. 4 in, hold for 4, out for 9, and then hold for 4. And go through that rotation 30 breaths. And just, seriously sit and analyze your feelings, how you're physically and energetically feeling, how you're mentally feeling, how you're spiritually feeling, just all the indicators, and you'll see that it is vastly better than what it was before. Now, that was a normal technique, an exceptional technique, I've gleaned from Dr. Joe Dispenza, where he actually has meditations which start with an 11-minute breathing meditation, which shifts the cerebrospinal fluid from the lower part of your spine up into the top of your spine and into your brain. And so the way he breathes, which is through muscle contraction, pelvic contraction as well, is to shift that cerebrospinal fluid up into the brain, which effectively activates your pineal gland. And if you're not sure about the role of your pineal gland in terms of you developing extraordinary powers as a leader, then do a bit of research on it. It also stimulates your intuition and your extrasensory powers. Energy hack number 7 is serving. Serve yourself first, self always first. And I've talked to you about this before. Sacrificing yourself for others is an unintelligent thing to do as a leader. And why is that? It's not selfishness that I'm talking about here. It's being able to equip yourself so that you are whole, you are complete, you are in a state of high vibrational consciousness, so that then you're equipped to serve others. And so it must always be self first. You know, in the old 3D world, I've seen leaders who are massively overweight, they're overworking, they hardly ever sleep, they're in a state of stress and anxiety, and they expect to be a great leader. Well, of course, that's just not the case, isn't it? And so self first means forgiveness of self, acceptance of self, that you are enough, and unconditional self love. And then, of course, a very important way of serving is to have clarity and focus around your true highest self vision and purpose, and to be able to go about, enacting that divine calling, creating and lovingly provide what it is you're here to provide, that is your special gifts, that is unique to you. And of course, kindness, random acts of kindness are really important. The ability to give, to be generous, and the ability to receive is just as important. I know a lot of people, are quite happy to give, but when somebody wants to give something to them, they say, oh, no, no, I'm okay. No, no, it's very important to receive because that completes the cycle of giving and receiving, which means the ability for the energy to keep moving. And it's very important for energy to keep moving. As soon as you block energy through not receiving, your ability to manifest, your ability to do everything is limited. Energy hack number 8 is gratitude. So being thankful actually triggers neurotransmitters, dopamine and serotonin, and they reduce stress, boost immunity, and shift brainwave states from beta to alpha. And so gratitude is a very important thing. When in doubt, when you're facing it, when it looks at its darkest, find a way to be in gratitude. Because gratitude also is related to epigenetics, which is the ability to positively or alter your own genetic expression to heal. And again, be grateful for yourself first. Be grateful for your challenges because they're actually learning experiences. Be grateful for your successes as well. And be grateful for everything because it doesn't matter what's happening in your life. In many respects, when you become, the infinite, divine, sovereign creator you were born to be, you'll find that everything is of your creation, and you should be grateful for that. And if things are not happening that are outside your sphere of influence, and this is the case, of course, then be grateful for that as well. The fact that you can see it, that you know it, that you're learning from it, that you're progressing, you're meaningfully growing and progressing from it. And again, I borrow this statement from Dr. Joe Dispenza. Gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. So, of course, what do you want to do in your manifestations, in your ability to create? You want to be in a state of gratitude because that is the state of being open and ready to receive. Now, let's go into by way of summary. The role of energy in leadership. When you master energy, you master everything. That's what makes you a quantum conscious leader. And quantum conscious leaders are alchemists. Quantum conscious leaders are alchemists because they know how to create in a way that serves themselves and everybody around them. So it's not about manipulation. It's not about selfishness. It's about creating in a state of giving, in a state of enhancing life. And so remember this. You happen to life. Life does not happen to you. You are not a victim. You are a creator. You do not live in this world. This world actually lives in you. It's of your creation. Your experiences, your material reality is of your creation. It doesn't happen to you. It's created by you. You are the infinite, divine, sovereign creator. You are the new breed of 5D leader when you master these things that I've been talking about today.